Okay, so now we've gotten to the point where the gesso is mostly dry, and a good way to test this is to just lightly tap your finger and kind of see what areas might need a little more drying, because again, you don't want it to be so wet that it's going to come back up with your texturing tool or stamp. So I'm just going to give it one more quick shot with this. And I did add, because my texture paste got so watery, I did add a little bit of the Martha Stewart gesso primer. I love this stuff. It is a gesso, but it has texture in it, it has kind of a grit in it, and it's awesome. So I did add that to fill in some of the spaces that weren't completely covered. So now what I'm going to do is, because I want the heart in this case to be more of a focal point, I want a complete heart, and I'm just going to squish that in. Hoping that my gesso is dry enough, because it still looks pretty squishy. So I'm just going to lift this up, see how we're doing. Okay. The bottom part of it looks pretty good, but the top part is going to have some holes in it. And that's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. Quick tip on gesso on any type of surface, you've probably noticed if you've used gesso at all that it doesn't come out of things too easily. So, you know, have some hot soapy water on hand that you can just throw it into like a plastic tub to soak it right away, so that the gesso doesn't get dried and stick on there, because once it does that, it is very hard to remove, especially from paintbrushes. I've learned that the hard way. Ooh, that one came out cool. So I'm not sure how well the texture is coming up on the camera, but basically I use the wave design here, and then the smaller polka dots here in the bottom left, the larger polka dots upper right hand corner, and then this basket weave type heart I'm going to squish into this corner. So we're just going to have hearts galore, which is perfectly in time for Valentine's Day. And what I like about the straight lined texture is crisscrossing it. So we'll see how this comes out first on its own. I would suggest maybe a little more drying time. This one took quite a while to dry because I had my texture paste was a little too watery. It probably could have stood a little more baking soda in it. Okay, so there's a nice little crisscross pattern down there. Then to add some extra texture, I'm just going to use this raggedy gesso covered little tool here. And you know, I like some of the natural bubbles that come up anyway with the heat, but it's also fun to just maybe do a scroll here and there, just anything to add something interesting. Do a little infinity symbol right there. That area is pretty dry, so it's not going to take a lot of texture. And maybe if it's not too dry, I'll scratch a little heart in there. But that area is fairly dry, so the heart's going to be subtle. We'll call it a subtle effect right there. Okay? So now what I'm going to do just to speed this up a bit, is just fill in, not too generously, because again, we don't want too much moisture. And then I'm just gonna kind of cover some areas. And you know, in mixed media, this is what I love, is that you can have just texture everywhere, and like pretty much all of it just looks cool, especially once you start adding color to it. And I really like anything that looks earthy, so I've noticed that playing with modeling paste, molding paste, texture paste, gesso can really give the effect of either like an earthy look, maybe something from another planet or the moon. You know, it gives like that crater effect. And I really did like that. I'm gonna lightly go over this little texture right here, and then because I like that infinity symbol and I kind of lost it, I'm gonna redo that. And I also just gonna give it one more quick shot with the heat gun. It's all about experimenting, right? That makes it fun. Want to get this dry again enough so that the top couple of layers will take that texture, but won't come back off of your medium or your sheet. Another fun thing to do with gesso is to really blast it with the heat gun. Just keep it right on there, and like I said, the craft sheet can handle it, and you'll start to see it bubble, which is so cool. It looks like a little science experiment. Like white lava is bubbling out of a volcano. And I really like it when you're using embossing powders and UT. It really crackles and you see all the colors explode, and it's just awesome to watch it change. So I'm going to get some of those little bubblers going. But this area I'm going to re-stamp with the heart, because I did want that one focal point of one heart to show, so that it was clearly a heart. Otherwise, how can it be a Valentine craft if it doesn't have at least one heart showing? Still pretty wet. A little bit too pliant still, so I apologize for the noise from the heat gun. I personally love using this thing, so it doesn't bother me, but it can get a little tedious on the videos, I know. I'm going to go over this area slowly, really make sure it's dry enough so I can re-stamp that texture. That's an area with a big glop of gesso on it, so I'm trying to dry it and see if some of those bubbles will appear. And you never know what you're going to get with it. That's what's another fun part of the process, is you just never quite know what is going to come out of the gesso with the heat applied to it. And I wanted to mention quickly that Jennings, Jennings 644, Fiona, recently had her channel reposted, and she's back in action on YouTube. She's one of my favorite multimedia artists. She works with a lot of shabby chic items, and she has over 1,000 videos. I was so happy to see that they had reinstated her channel, because not only does she have fabulous ideas, but she is so much fun to watch, and she's really funny. Very entertaining. So if you haven't checked out her channel, please go check it out, because I often will just go and watch some of her playlists just so I can see what she's up to and hear her cool voice and her cracking her jokes. Okay, so I'm going to use the other side of this because this one's covered in gesso. So I'm getting my fingers all nice and gesso-y. Yay! Okay, really going to apply some pressure. Okay, better. Still not exactly what I was looking for, but hey. Okay, I'm just gonna quickly, with the stippler, just outline the heart, and that way it's still a heart. And don't worry if these little crumbly pieces show up, because once you start to apply other media to it, or if you decide to go back over the entire canvas with either, you know, glossy accents or a pouring medium or something to seal it, that stuff won't matter. It'll just add to the texture. Okay. So now I'm just kind of looking at the rest of this here, seeing if I want to add any more texture. Maybe some more lines right here. Cool. And I really like that polka dot effect. So maybe just up here in the corner a little bit more of that. Okay. Now I'm shooting from sort of an odd angle here, so I'm just going to pick this up quickly, kind of dust off some of this, the extra crumbs, and I'll show you what it looks like so far. Okay, so now I'm going to start applying some alcohol inks, and I just chose 4 colors, 2 blues and 2 that are sort of in the magenta family. This is one of my favorite alcohol inks. This is the Stonewash. It's a really pretty nice blue. And I'm just going to be really random and just splotch that out. And as you can see, it starts to sink in right away, and it really still picks up the texture, and that's what I like. And as it dries, the alcohol ink, the edges of it will have a slightly different tinge, like you can see with Stonewashed, the blue, right at the edges it starts to turn lavender. That's really cool. And then that second color I used is Stream, and that's a really pretty vibrant blue-green. The blue-green stays pretty true. It doesn't tend to turn into a different color. And I thought for this heart on the inside, Wild Plum, because it is almost a fluorescent but deep purple. And what girl doesn't love purple? And this is such a cool one. I really like how dark that is. Okay, it's a good idea to just let the alcohol ink sort of settle in for a little while, see what it does, see where it goes, because it's going to seep out and you might end up not having to use as much as you think you do because it'll go pretty far. And then you'll see once it starts to dry out some of your thinner areas. I went back to the stone washed here, and then you can start filling in those little white areas. Okay, this one's currant. This one I haven't used very much actually, so it's going to be a surprise when it comes out. I'm not sure exactly what color this is. Okay, so it's a very deep purple, brownish purple. It's pretty. I don't want it to get too dark though. I like where it looks a little bit lighter. So I'm going to go back with some stone washed, kind of fill in these little areas. And again, we're not looking for perfection here, we're just looking to have fun, so I don't know, another inspiring post of Jenny Belly's, I put it on my channel as one of my favorite videos, is believing in yourself, and she has another video about just liking everything that you do, even if you hate it. It's like, you know what, this is part of my process and I'm learning, and even if a piece comes out and you think it's hideous, you get to look back on it later and see how much progress you've made. So she was talking about the importance of just having confidence and knowing that some pieces are going to come out more to your liking than others, but none of them is without value, you know, because we're always learning. Okay, so what I'm seeing here is the bottom 3/4 of the canvas. I like the way the colors come together. However, the currant at the top looks a little dark, a little bit strange. So what I'm going to do, it seems to clash a little bit with the other colors. I'm just going to bust out my art bin here and look at some different colors that might tone it down. Looking for something lighter. And again, this is completely experimental, so I don't really know how this is going to turn out. The bottle, I know, is a pretty strong color though. And I do like currant. I think maybe it would work a little bit better on a different canvas with different colors that it blends well with. I have a rust color that I haven't played with much, and I'm thinking it would go well with rust. But you get the idea. And the alcohol inks actually dry pretty fast. If you'd like, you can always zap it with your heat gun if you want to get to the next step quickly. Not totally necessary. I am going to zap this top part. Okay, so now that that's pretty well dry. I am going to grab another color of the Inca Gold, and I might actually grab a couple of colors. Okay, so these are the trial size, and I believe they're like the big tubs. I don't know if it shows the quantity. I want to say this is, okay, it's 62.5 grams, which I think is roughly 2 ounces. And so these little ones are tiny. I don't know how much they are in here, but it's not very big. And I've noticed that since I haven't used the gold in a while, I'm just going to give it a little splash of water in there just to soften it up. As you can see, it kind of starts to crack in there, but it's fine because it'll get some of that water mixed in, and see, it'll come right out. You can see that on my fingertip. You do want to work pretty fast with the Inca Golds because they dry very quickly. And now I'm just picking up more of the texture. You can see sort of that honeycomb pattern popping out with the Inca Gold. And turns out I really like that lattice work. I didn't use very much of it on this particular project, but look at how neat that looks when you get a little bit of metallic on there. That's really cool. Okay, and here, this looks sort of oceany down here. I might go with more of the silver. And this I used as recently as yesterday, so it's nice and yummy. It's kind of the consistency of cake frosting. And I'm gonna lightly silverize the heart on one side, and then I love copper, and so I'm going to use my other little trial size guy, which is also pretty dried out. Haven't used it in a little while. Splat some water in there, get that going. And as you can see, I'm not cleaning my hands between this. I'm just going for it. You can always clean up after you're done, but it's nice to just get in there and just, you know, really get the momentum going with excuse me, with the project and not dilly-dallying, because sometimes I like to draw out projects, but you know, it's nice too when you're just sort of in the flow and you let it see where it takes you. It's a lot of fun, and I never believed I'd be saying this, but I can actually get into the flow while I'm on film, which I did not think was possible because I thought I was going to be so conscious of the camera, but now, easy peasy. I think it comes down to having more confidence, you know, as you start to explore and play more and you get some more satisfaction out of your work, you see what other people are doing and experimenting with, and you know, it's just like, this is supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be relaxing, it's supposed to be inspiring, and so I just kind of look at it with that attitude. Okay, I'm going to try to get a few more of those granules. So here's where we're at so far. I know again that metallic is really hard to come up on the camera, but it is looking like it has a great sheen to it. I'm going to go into a little bit more of the silver. Get some of these areas down here so you can really see more of the polka dots. And the cool thing is, I want to plan an ocean-inspired piece with the polka dot pattern, because if you look, the polka dots combined with the bubbles made from the heat and the gesso really looks underwater to me. Just really reminds me of the ocean and some of the sea life, you know, the plants and stuff you see down there. Okay, just giving some more metallic highlights to the crisscross pattern. I think I'm going to add a little bit more copper down there. Just going lightly with the copper. It's really fun to combine the Viva Decor colors, and another option that I saw on Mara Johnson's website, she does work for Splash of Color, which is also in conjunction with Inca Gold, Viva Decor. I'm not sure. They do the Inca Gold together, I know that, and they make a product called Primary Elements that is pure mica, and you can actually change the color of your Viva Decors using that mica powder, which I thought would be so fun because you could just make an infinite number of colors and have tons of choices. But you know, Viva Decor itself offers, I've seen probably 12 or 15 different colors that it offers, but you know, I usually invest in silver and gold the most because they're the colors that are sort of the most versatile, but if you mix those with the primary elements, I would imagine you can get all kinds of colors. And it really just depends on if you want, you know, a vintage effect, if you just want something funky and colorful. Okay, so tap off more crumbs, more gesso crumbs. So here, you know, this is the silver coloring the gesso. I would want to go back in there and maybe kind of rework that. But this is a great start, and I will most likely seal it either with maybe a gloss gel medium, glossy accents. I love the look of that. This is probably too large of a surface for the glossy accents. It would probably take my entire bottle to cover it. But something glossy that will seal it and give it a resined look, I'm thinking. And so there's my Valentine's project. I'll show you the original one. And again, like I said, really gives you that effect of the earth. These look like, to me, heart-shaped earths. And then with some type of solar system, moon type of thing going on in the background. Lots of different things to try, and I hope you enjoyed. Please like and leave comments if you have any, and love sharing with you as always. Thanks so much, YouTube. Bye-bye.